Hi, my name is Sierra Drew, and this is my 2019 climb of the Sierra High Route, a year that saw 230% snowpack. What is the Sierra High Route? It's 195 miles of cool, crisp, clean, clear mountain air, 115 miles of cross-country traversing, and 38 mountain passes. The High Route isn't for everyone, but if it's for you, I hope that you go out there and get it. Also, just so I know whether or not I'm supposed to keep making videos, please subscribe and hit the bell notification below. As of this video currently, I have no subscribers, so, well, I guess that's that. Join me as we tackle the high route together. Hey everybody, welcome to Drew Littlejohn's YouTube video on gear prep for the Sierra High Route. So most of you know it is not exactly the PCT or the John Muir Trail. It's somewhere between mountaineering and backpacking. So kind of like hardcore backpacking, but not really backpacking. So for example, instead of wearing ultralight shoes like the Lone Peaks, what I'll be wearing is a pair of full grain Vortex Solos. And the reason for these is because I'm going to be going over, I think, 60 to 70 miles of talus and scree, and you're really going to need like a really hard Vibram sole going through a lot of snow, and that's going to lead to lots of just lots of everything, basically. So you really need a pair of shoes that you can that will survive hopping across boulder fields for endless miles. So the next thing you're going to need to have, in my opinion, a lot of people like to go with an ultralight pack, some sort of Cuban fiber type pack. In my opinion, because the amount of gear you will be carrying and the amount of food you will be carrying is a lot, and also just with the comfortability, I prefer going with this Arc'teryx Bora AR63. Yes, it's heavy, it's 5 pounds, but it is incredibly waterproof, and it has this awesome hip swivel which evenly distributes the weight, has a carbon fiber back so it's not as heavy as it could be. I took this thing on the John Muir Trail a while back and did some off-roading with that too, and this has just been the most comfortable backpack that I would want. Also too, I find that with a lot of those ultralight backpacks, the weight is not, it's too much distributed on my traps, and so I find that I get incredibly sweaty. I find that my shoulders are achy and my traps are achy, and really because I have big legs and a big butt, I like to have the weight distributed right there. So we'll start there. So one of the key factors that makes this trip differently with the gear you're carrying is that you're going to need some real boots. I know a lot of other folks like to go with, heavy, kind of a hardcore trail runner. Once again, I'm going solo, so my personal opinion is that you should have a ankle support, and that's just, it wouldn't matter where I was going, that's just how I roll personally. Also, inside my shoes, I have a pair of super feet. I find that a lot of people on a thru hike will typically become, one of the things that will make them cave in is just having bad knees. Their knees will go out, they won't know how to stretch their quads properly, you'll get some stiffness, some soreness, and then next thing you know, you're leaning to compensate on the other side, and you throw your hip out, and then you lean more on the other side, and you throw your back out. Next thing you know, your whole entire body's out of whack because, I don't know, you didn't have the right arch support. So I have a pair of super feet in here, a pair of good boots. I've trained with my boots. They're well broken in. There's over 100 miles that I've already logged on them, well over that. So from here, though, the only other piece of gear you're going to have that's going to be in the not ultralight category is going to be so a pair of micro spikes. So to me, the idea of traveling over any of these passes without a pair of micro spikes is a little bit crazy. I've seen some other YouTube videos of people doing that, and that to me just, I don't know, it just seems a little berserk or just generally unsafe to me. Micro spikes super easy though. You just take them and you just kind of put them on your shoes like that, and boom. you're off and running, and there's very few passes you're going to encounter in this year that require beyond this in terms of summer mountaineering or late spring mountaineering. You could go with a more heavy duty pair of crampons, but they're going to be really heavy, and the odds of you encountering blue ice, unless you're over in the Palisade Glacier or you're kind of on one of those year-round glaciers, you're probably not going to encounter a whole lot of blue ice or black ice or verglass or that sort of stuff. So predominantly, if you're sticking to the passes and not really diving deep into couloirs and everything, I think a pair of microspikes can be just fine. So now we'll get into a little bit more of the calorie side of things. So on something like the high route, you're going to probably log between 13 and 15 miles and between 5 and 7,000 vertical feet per day. That's going to be roughly the equivalent of doing Mount Whitney, the ascent of Mount Whitney every day. So it's a lot. Your caloric needs are going to be a lot higher. Oh, one last thing I forgot to add on the gear rate, why you would use a larger pack. Because your bear can weighs 3 pounds. So that's a big deal right there. And then there's some other little things too. For example, I plan on going climbing in the Palisades. There's some great 14ers up there. They're really hard to get to, so once you were there, and the high route kind of walks you right past them, once you're there, you might as well stop and go climbing. And yes, I know that this 60-foot rope here is, I know it's 2.5 pounds, and as well as that, for my solo ascent up Starlight, because I won't have anybody come with me, I'll have a pair of rock climbing shoes as well. I'll pick these up in Red's Meadow. And then I'm going to mail all of this stuff back to myself from the Kings Canyon side when I get there. So I'm going to be carrying an extra 4 pounds for an extra 9 days so I can have the privilege of doing a couple of climbing routes that I wouldn't normally get the opportunity to do. So again, going back to it, I think that it's better to have a stiffer pack, a heavier pack, so you can bring more food, more gear, and be able to really do what you're going out there to do in a safe way. So next item on the list is calories. So I weigh 200 pounds. I'm about 13.5–14% body fat. So my caloric needs are right around 4,500 calories a day. It's big. It's a lot of calories for me. So here's what my food plan looks like. Everyone's food plan is going to look a little bit differently. I am also doing this whole entire hike predominantly using the ketogenic diet. So if you don't know much about ketosis, it basically means I'm going to be eating mostly fat, very low carbs. I'll be having way more carbs than I would have at home. And the reason I'll be having more carbs than I would have at home is because carbohydrates turn into glycogen. Glycogen helps your body to store water. Water helps you to acclimatize a lot faster because it carries more oxygen, more red blood cells. So I'll be having a little bit more carbohydrates than normal, but basically here's how this works. I've got 450 calories of macadamia nuts, 450 calories of, that's backwards, surprise, Duke's sausages. I have a complete cookie. This is about 400 calories. It's pretty amazing. I have ibuprofen, caffeine pills, Tylenol, and a special thing that I got from my doctor called Provigil, or modafinil. It helps to fight fatigue. It's a prescription drug, so if you're going to be pushing some pretty heavy days, you may want to ask your doctor about it. I don't know. To me, it seemed like a good idea. I have some melatonin because I have a hard time sleeping at night. I made my own 420 to 500 calorie fat bombs. So these are made out of MCT oil, sunflower butter, cocoa, just all kinds of chia seeds, ground flax seeds, really good stuff. It's 400 calories. It's kind of like a goo, but the fat version of a goo. Next I have lunch. So this is predominantly it's protein powder. It is mass gainer, so carbs, flaxseed, chia seeds, MCT oil powder, and grass-fed butter powder. So this is actually 800 calories believe it or not. And I don't like to stop for food. It's not something that I personally enjoy doing. So I was able to get my calories to about 135 calories per ounce in general. The only additional weight that I'll need is a shaker cup. So this is going to weigh about an extra 12 ounces. But in return to that, I'm going to get food that I'll be able to digest really quickly. I won't have to work at it. I like to be moving 16 to 18 hours a day when I'm out. So this is kind of the way to go for me. I just kind of shake it up and I'm back on the trail again. Then we have a ketogenic Love Good Fats bar. I find this to be absolutely essential. A lot of people don't know that sodium chloride, salt even, pink Himalayan salt to be exact, along with electrolytes, and I use a little bit of pre-workout. It's like beta-alanine and some bunch of other like kind of pick-me-up powders. So that would be in any pre-workout like C4. So that's what this is. So in my 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of water a day that I'll be drinking, I'm going to take an extra 3 teaspoons of salt. What that's going to do is that's going to keep my muscles really fluid. It's going to keep them well hydrated, and it's going to keep my mind really sharp. Anybody who does one of these trips and doesn't bring a ton of extra salt, I feel for you. It makes a huge difference. It really does. Then I got a paleo grass-fed beef stick butter. And for breakfast, so here we go. So breakfast, this is kind of an interesting one. I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of in layers here. I use hemp hearts as the base. So hemp hearts, chia seeds, ground flax seeds. That's going to give a lot of omega-3s, which is going to help with like reduce muscle wasting, muscle loss. So I'll be able to maintain a ton of my muscular fibers. Also within this is some acai berry blend and a bunch of those good fats like grass-fed butter, MCT oil, and some coconut milk as well, some powdered coconut milk. So this is another 800 calories. It's a little bit more chewy. At breakfast I kind of want to eat a little bit more, but again, between my breakfast and my lunch, here's 1,600 calories that I don't have to do a whole lot, and my body's not going to have to fight to absorb. So you won't be seeing those, when you go to the bathroom, it won't be those massive backpacker where you kind of waste a lot of what you think you might be eating. These are all made out of superfoods, incredibly nutrient dense, calorically dense, and hopefully it'll kind of keep me going. So that's that. So for dinner, I think a lot of people kind of wonder a little bit about dinner. Like, what should you do? I like to make dinner basically just this hour-long event. In my mind, I'm up at 6. Breakfast is just like more of a hassle to me. It's a cup of coffee, it's my shake, and I'm out. But dinner, after I get my tent site and all that stuff set up, after I get everything set up, I kind of look at it and I go, well, I want to enjoy myself. So I might start out the night with some bone broth and miso soup. This is just a killer way to just get your body rehydrated, tons of salt, and just get your body kind of get it back going again, start getting some protein in there. This bone broth is really going to do that. I think this one little tube here, it has 10 grams of protein, and it's got tons of collagen to help with your skin, because your skin kind of gets dry up there. It's just really kick-ass stuff here. And then what I do is I found this company, and I'll give them a little bit of a shout out, called Next Mile Meals. So they're very keto minded. The only thing was that the food was 530 calories, which for me just kind of, that's not enough for me for dinner, especially come day 6, 7, 8, 9, day 20. I mean, I'm going to be eating some really big dinners. So what do? I learned from a guy last year about ramen bombing, where you can take a package of top ramen, crush it up, and throw it into your backpacking food, and voila, you get an extra whole bunch of calories per ounce. So what I do is, I actually have this here. This is edamame spaghetti, and this has a ton of protein, has a lot of really good dietary fiber, and it has a decent amount of fat. So what you do is you take maybe 100 grams of this, you throw that into your Next Mile Meals here, You throw in 200 calories of dried pinto beans into here, and then you throw in some like coconut butter, or coconut milk powder, some grass-fed butter powder, some MCT powder, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're at a 1,400 calorie dinner that you can enjoy and eat kind of for like an hour or two, and really just let it set in. Get a lot of carbohydrates for dinner. And finally, I like to end my dinner with a complete cookie. So this is going to bring me up to 1,600 calories for dinner. This is basically going to replenish most of the carbohydrates, and then who doesn't want to have some chocolate? And so there you go. So my dinner is really this big feast of miso soup and bone broth and some chicken curry and some chocolate and a cookie. And I almost always add chili pepper flakes to my food because I find backpacking food to be generally, I don't know, kind of flavorless, I guess. So I either add that or I add some like chipotle chili powder. So one of the two. Kind of see whichever one you like. Another thing that I like to bring during the average day would be some Crystal Light. And this is because I think that drinking water is kind of boring. Now, if you use one of those Sawyers, I don't know how it works. I don't use a Sawyer. We'll get into more about what I do. I use iodine because I got sick one time from a filter that broke, and I didn't realize that it broke, and then I got really bad water poisoning. So I don't, if I don't see chemicals going in, killing some bugs, then personally I'm not really into it. So for cooking, I am a make my own lid. Fork thing. I use the Snow Peaks 500 as well as the little Snow Peak titanium stove guy. So that's my little jam right there. I was a Jetboil guy for a long time, but I don't like that they fall over. I don't like that they burn your hands. They use up a lot of fuel. I don't know. I think that they're perfectly fine for like pulling out of the trunk of your car on like a foggy day at the beach and just pulling out, or like having it in your trunk for snowboarding or something. I think that's like ideal. Car camping, you want a cup of coffee right when you wake up, not like 10 minutes after you wake up. Jetboil for days on that one. Okay, so food-wise, we've got all of this, and it weighs about 2.5 pounds. So we're at 4,600 calories, 2.5 pounds. I'm happy with that. And if you're going to be doing a 10-day stretch, that's close to 23, 24 pounds of food on a 10-day stretch that I'll be doing on the Sierra High Route. So we're talking going from Red's Meadow to closing out, rather than choosing to resupply in Bishop. I just thought it'd be better just to kind of keep it going. Trying to avoid having to go to towns as much as I possibly can. Okay, so that's the food element. The next side of things we're getting into is clothes. So clothes have been kind of an interesting one for me because generally speaking, I run really hot, especially for something like this. On this trip, you don't want to be wearing any shorts. The odds of falling in the snow are 100%. So it's going to be happening eventually. So moving into it, I found this. This is a rain jacket. It's from a brand called Frog Togs. And you'll see when I put it on, this is a large. And again, I'm 200 pounds. So the reason I got this as opposed to like my North Face or my Patagonia shells is because I can wear this down jacket underneath this, and I'll get all the loft from my down, as well as having additional airspace between my down and here. So my feeling on that is that I want to be as warm as I can and as comfortable as I can. And being that I plan on sleeping in my jacket, I want to be able to make sure that this is going to work for me. This is only 5.3 ounces, so crazy light. It's $15 on Amazon. I mean, give me a break. This is my down jacket. This is the Mountain Hardwear. You know, I used to be a huge gear nerd, but now I just kind of... it's like 850 fill hydrophobic down. I don't know. It was $300, and at the end of the day, I think it weighs like 6 ounces, 7 ounces. So my down jacket plus rain shell is under a pound. I'm not depressed about that. Underwear, let's be honest, if you don't own a pair of ex officio backpacking underwear, maybe you just don't love your boys, but I do, so there you go. Gotta wear a long sleeve. You could try to wear a short sleeve. I would highly not recommend it. Reason for not wearing short sleeves is because you're gonna be dealing with a lot of sun, and you're probably not gonna remember to put sunscreen on all of the time. So the sun is gonna be a huge factor in this one. So I have a long sleeve, very breathable, kind of meshy, fairly heavy. I wouldn't normally have selected such a heavy shirt, but I figure I'm going to be above 10,000 feet, so the wind is going to be real. So I got a good Patagonia for that one. For my pants, this is actually kind of a funny one here. I decided to go with a pair of stretch convertible Pranas. The reason for that being is that I like the idea of being able to zip at the knees and get a little bit more airflow. Last year with my pants, they were a little bit warm, and I would like to have the option for shorts. I'd like to have the option to have a really weird tan line because, coming back home with weird tan lines is kind of like a pride and joy of backpacking. If you don't have like some tan line somewhere, weird raccoon line around your eyes, or I don't know. So there you go. Pair of Prana convertible Zion pants. Okay, so next what we've got is my personal luxury item, and by luxury I mean like 4 ounces, but I have this little pair of down booties. And if you've never used down booties when you're snow camping, I'm sorry, don't know what to tell you. But you wear these things at night, especially when you're using a quilt. If your feet get a little bit chilly, down booties. I use them on Denali, I use them on the John Muir Trail, I've used them going up Mount Orizaba in Mexico, and I'll be honest, I don't know that I would ever want to do any sort of meaningful snow, winter, anything without down booties, just because when you get to base camp, the last thing you want to do is wear a pair of wet leather Vortex boots. For gloves, I just use a pair of wool hand gloves. My hands generally don't get cold, and so I don't use any sort of shell for gloves, but a pair of wool gloves, mandatory. This is just my North Face beanie. Found it on the ground a while ago, and I don't know, it's just kind of been with me for ages. So I find hats are kind of like that. You kind of have some weird things about the gear you bring, and hats are one of those things. So there's my North Face beanie. Speaking of weird things, here's my liners. So I think that you should always have a pair of funny socks. Funny socks, I think, help keep the energy a little bit lighter. Either funny socks, funny underwear. You should always wear something funny that only you know that you're wearing, because it's funny. So I got some rubber ducky socks, liners, and I got a pair of really nice merino wool socks. So, and one last thing that I do wear, which every one of my friends makes fun of me for, is my Indiana Jones hat. And yeah, it weighs a pound. It really does. This is it right here. It's full leather. Keeps my head way warmer than it needs to be. But I like it. And I think it's funny. I especially like doing the sideways captain's hat. Allows for a nice breeze, wind tunnel. Protects your head. Especially me. I keep a nice, tight, shaved head the entire time I'm gone. And so I like this. I think it's fun. Especially when you add it to, and I'm sure maybe we'll see this later on in some of the videos, if you add it to a pair of old 1970s aviators. I mean, come on, what is not to love about this outfit? It's, I know all I'm missing is to shave this off and just have the mustache, but there you go. And these glasses are funny. Actually, these are actually from the 70s. They actually got the whole ear loop things. I love that because when you're out there, it's amazing how often you look down or you're looking at your holes and you're constantly doing this number with your glasses. Or if you have the heavy wraparounds, they kind of like tight around your head, or the little strap around your neck gets a little annoying. So who knows? You know, my father-in-law kind of character gave these to me, and these are straight out of the 70s. I'm actually looking forward to rocking them in a real way. So next we're going to look at is my sleep system. And my sleep system is still a bit of a work in progress, so you kind of have to work with me. So here's how I did my sleep. My sleep system. So my sleep system, I have this Thermarest Neo Air Uber Light, which is 8 ounces. This is my Z seat, which, if you don't own a Z seat, it even makes your bear can more comfortable. Which, by the way, speaking of bear cans are the ultimate seat around camp. So people complain about having them. I don't know. To me, bear cans are just they're not as bad as everyone thinks they are. I have a Sea to Summit pillow. Which I find to be a lifesaver. Yes, you can sleep with a jacket. Cool, good for you. Take a pillow. Few things I don't mess with. My back, when it comes to my backpack, my feet, and my sleep. Okay, that being said, I have a pillow, Sea to Summit pillow. I have the full-length Thermarest here. Next, what I have is I have an Enlightened Equipment 20-degree quilt. As you can see, this thing is brand new. And yes, it is pink because, again, I think it's fun to have funny things that are goofy. Especially when you're by yourself. There aren't other color commentary things, so you kind of have to make it yourself. And finally, I have for my tent, I have a Z-Pax 7x10 tarp, along with some tent stakes and some guy lines. And all of that is going to go into my dry bag here, my waterproof bag, stuff sack. And so I have a stuff sack, one, because I like to compress things to make more room. But also, two, I have a feeling that I'm going to be making some pretty bizarre river crossings. And I can't guarantee that I won't fall into the river. And I can't guarantee that I won't fall in and get my bag wet. So if that's an option or a possibility or a theoretical possibility, which makes me uncomfortable, I want to make sure personally that I'm going to be able to keep everything that needs to stay dry. So I got my food, which will be in the bear can, which is fine. But all my sleep stuff, I'm going to go right in here. This is an ultralight bag. I think it weighs like 2.5 ounces. There's a Sea to Summit Cordura fabric. I don't know. Either way, I know that my whole sleep system weighs like, I'm just under 3 pounds or just under 4 pounds. And that includes tent, sleeping bag, Thermarest, pillow. And last but not least, wax earplugs. I love my wax earplugs. So I use Max Pillow Soft earplugs. And then here's my melatonin, and that actually goes right in there. So now I have my melatonin, my earplugs, my pillow, and when it is nighttime, it is nighttime. Okay, so what goes into my general my brain, right? This little pouch on top. I think that everybody kind of has these what do they put in their brain? So here's what I put in mine. I'm just gonna turn you right around here. Boop. How's that? All right. So here we go. So in my brain, I have the essentials: toilet paper and soap. Well, Drew, why are you bringing soap? because the number one thing I think of preventers of having fun in the backcountry is Giardia. And contrary to popular opinion, Giardia doesn't come from the lakes, it comes from you not washing your hands. So, maintaining really clean hands is essential so you don't Giardia yourself, i.e. put your own poop in your mouth. Kind of gross, I know, but hey, man. An inhaler, not because I have asthma, but one time I gave myself onset acute asthma or something. I don't know. Anyways, so I carry this also too. If you run into somebody else who has altitude sickness, this can help a little bit. I carry this in my little shoulder pouch. Goes right here. So a lot of really good med kit stuff kind of goes in there. I have my spot device. So it was either get this or get a divorce. So I chose to get this. A head net, because if you're going to go with the Z-Packs tarp, you also have to have the head net to go with it. Without this, you're kind of screwed. Black diamond headlamp. Leukotape. Talk about Leukotape for a second, if you don't know what it is. It is simply the best way to deal with blisters, and the best way to kind of fix most things. You can use tenacious tape too, which is waterproof and pretty amazing stuff. I find that Leukotape is breathable, and so it works very well for most pieces of clothing, most pieces of gear, and the best thing it is used for is for blisters and for medical stuff. So what do I do for water? Water, I use iodine, 4 drops per liter, good to go. Also doubles over as an antiseptic. So what I'll do if I have a cut is I will apply some iodine, use Leukotape, which will kind of cover it up, as well as let it breathe so it can heal. And then when it's done healing, pull the Leukotape off, good to go. Next, I have my, I don't want to call it a talisman or a totem, maybe, I guess. It's just something that I carry that kind of reminds me about stuff that's important to me. So I have this. Attached to this is my whistle. You should always have a whistle when you go in the backcountry. From a knife perspective, I use this little itty bitty baby Gerber. Anything more than this is probably overkill. I have a battery charger, so this will charge my phone I think 5 or 6 times. So this will be good for me to document whatever I need to document. I have my med kit, which we'll go through my med kit here in just a second, but I have SPF 50, which is a stick version, and I find this to be better for something like my tattoo, certain spots on my forehead or my face. It's less of a waste than carrying around some sort of can or paste that kind of gets everywhere and gets all gross and nasty. Aquaphor. So I think that when your feet get dry, which inevitably your feet will get wet, and then you'll walk for 2 days with wet feet. So when that happens, eventually, you're gonna want to go to sleep at night, basically lube up your entire feet with some Aquaphor or some Neosporin, put on some fresh socks, climb into those down booties, and just let it sit for a day. And what's going to happen is your feet will kind of almost repair themselves if you do that. And it'll happen in like 12 hours. It's pretty miraculous. This is an extra pair of polarized glasses. Nowhere near as fun as the other ones, but I lost a pair of glasses in the snow expedition once. And yeah, never do that again. So 2 pairs of glasses. Insect repellent. This is probably all I'm going to need for most of the time. I'm imagining that mosquitoes will probably be really bad going up and over Vogelsang Pass, going down to Forester Pass, and then as well bad right after Red's Meadow up until I get into Ducey Basin. They should be really bad. Once I get into Ducey Basin, should be totally fine on the mosquito side until I get to Marion Lake, and then they'll be horrific again down into Kings Canyon, and then I'm going to come back up. They're going to be really bad again at Ray Lakes. Go up and over Glen Pass, and then they'll be bad again down in the Meadow, and then I think it should be all pretty much good from there until I get to Horseshoe Meadows. I'm actually doing the southern high route as well, so that's what that is. So, and finally, in this little guy here, what I have is maps. So I think that knowing how to read maps and reading maps is, I think it's good, and I think it's good to do this and to not rely on your phone too much. Phone battery dies, drop your phone, break your phone. I can't drop these and break them, and so I think to go on a major trip without an actual map, I think that it's foolish. So those are some waterproof glossy maps. You can get them printed out pretty much. I think I got them printed out at Staples online, and they're pretty cheap. So you can just print out your own maps. Thermometer. Okay, so finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is drugs. So I think that you should always have some ibuprofen and some Tylenol and some caffeine pills. I use hydroxycut for my caffeine pills, similar to what I use almost every day in the gym. And the reason for that is because they keep you awake and they keep you alert in a very good way. However, there are certain things that even they can't fix. One of those things is dental floss and a needle for blister care. So let's not forget that that is essential. So what I have in here is I have, along with the normal stuff like Band-Aids, alcohol wipes, gauze, all that sort of general stuff that you would keep in a med kit, which I think is critical to have, generally speaking. I have 3 other prescription medications. So I met with my doctor last week and asked him if he could prescribe me some dexamethasone, some cyclobenzaprine, and some Provigil. So cyclobenzaprine is a muscle relaxer. So in the event that I'm just in a lot of pain, or I'm experiencing muscle spasms, or an overwhelming amount of cramping, any of these kind of things that just, generally speaking, muscularly, I want to be able to manage that. So that's what this is for. Dexamethasone is one of those things that when you get into a kind of survival situation, sometimes you can get yourself worked up. And when you do that, you can accidentally induce your own version of high altitude sickness, some AMS, because you're not breathing enough, you're not getting enough oxygen. So when that adrenaline kicks in and you're not focused on your breathing, what can happen is you can get yourself altitude sickness. And what dexamethasone will do is it'll help carry a little more red blood cells, it'll decrease some of the inflammation in your lungs, and it will help to just generally get you a little bit better. So the final one is far more controversial, but I think that it's the one that I'm most happy that I have with me, and it's called Provigil. And Provigil is something I found out about from a Army Ranger, and what he said that they had been prescribed that when they need to do long drives through the Iraq desert. So in my mind, I thought, well, if you needed to stay awake, that would actually be a way to go. If you've ever done a 26-hour or 30-hour or 40-hour epic, you know that you start getting very tired, especially at altitude, especially when you start getting dehydrated, all those things that really starts to play. And so having something that blocks your fatigue receptors to allow you to keep it moving. It won't make you super smart or super fast or super anything. It will just keep you kind of normal, pushing into hours 24, 28, 30. It'll just keep you awake. Your judgment is still poor, so it doesn't help you to have better judgment into the late hours. But if you just need to be on your feet, be moving, get out of whatever situation you're in, stay alert, all that kind of stuff. So that's my whole kind of cocktail. Some caffeine, some water with some salt, a little bit of calories, and some Provigil, and you can kind of get through most situations. There was one last piece of gear that I've been seeing a lot of like YouTubers saying that they're getting rid of, which seems crazy to me. But it is a pair of trekking poles. I don't know of a piece of gear that is almost as essential to me as a pair of trekking poles, especially in snow, especially on ice. I'm not a big ice axe carrier, personally. I think if you are using your ice axe, you probably didn't think about where you are walking on the snowfield ahead of time. So I'm a much bigger fan of wearing micro spikes and having some carbon fiber trekking poles. So that's my feeling on that part. And so, yeah, I hope that this kind of gear list kind of will set you up for understanding how the route planning for the high route is a little bit different than for like a through hike or a general backpacking trip. You're going to be incurring a lot more weight than you would on one of those trips. And also, because there's no trail, you cannot plan on 30-mile days or 25-mile days. You're really at the mercy of the snow fields, the talus fields, how fast are you moving downhill, and also how good is your route finding. So those are some of the key elements. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you got some use out of it, and that this is something that you kind of go, yeah, thanks. If you did like it, I'm going to go ahead and ask that you subscribe to my channel. This is the first video of random things that I'm making because my wife says I have to start making YouTube videos if I'm going to keep not doing anything. So I don't really do a whole lot, but I do this a lot. And so here you go. So subscribe, like, comment. If you have any other questions about this or how to backpack on a keto diet, let me know. All right, thanks. Bye.